So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kaizen Events That Stick, planning, executing, and sustaining gains. I am so honored to be with you today. If you don't know me, my name is Katie Lebeds. I am a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and Certified Project Management Professional and Emotional Intelligence Coach. I own my own company. I'm based out of Hortonville, Wisconsin. I own Learning to Lean. I am also an author. I've written 3 different books, and I have been doing lean and continuous improvement for the last 20 years. And I am so blessed and honored to be able to love what I do every single day and to share my passion and knowledge with you. So today we're here to talk about Kaizen events, which I love to talk about. They are revolutionary for an organization if they're done right. So we're going to talk about picking your problem today, your project charter, your problem statement, people, and the actual process to functionally do an event. I'm going to share with you some tools that I like to use personally for Kaizen events. And let's just start off with picking your problem. But before we get there, we have to get us all to the understanding of what is Kaizen. Now, Kaizen means good change or change for good or improvement. So I really personally define it as revolutionary change for an organization. So once we have an organization that really commits to doing Kaizen and Kaizen change, that this really changes the game for the organization because suddenly people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we finally fixed that problem that has been out there for days, weeks, months, or even years. We finally got to fix it. We're fixing it in a very short amount of time instead of dragging it on for months and months, or let's be honest, maybe even years. So, just to talk to you about a Kaizen event, it's for an appropriately scoped problem, which we're going to talk a lot more about here in just a second. We need a cross functional team. We're going to talk about people. We need an experienced facilitator. So, one of the questions that I typically receive when I do a Kaizen event is how can we run our own? Well, you certainly can run your own. If I am working with you from a coaching perspective, this is my recommendation that first of all, you have some lean training, whether it's yellow belt or green belt or black belt. So you have some exposure to that. You attend a Kaizen event that I am facilitating or an experienced facilitator is facilitating. So you get that experience as an attendee. The next phase in that development would be you facilitate with me or with another facilitator. So we're co-facilitating an event. The phase after that is that you facilitate the event while I'm present in the room. So I'm there to help you if you need help. And then you move on to facilitating on your own. Now, why do I recommend this? Well, one of the reasons I recommend this is because that's the way that I was trained. And that really helped me to feel confident in my way of facilitating a Kaizen event. I was able to watch how other people facilitated. So I co-facilitated with multiple people. I ended up facilitating with one person all of the time, which was fantastic because you get to feed off of each other. You know how the other person's going to react. You take maybe SciPoc because you really like SciPoc, and I'll take value stream map because I really like that. So really having 2 facilitators is ideal situation, right? But it's attend, co-facilitate, lead by your own with instruction, and then facilitate on your own is my recommendation in general. And we're going to talk about how long does it take, and we want to review all possible options for improvement. And our goal, of course, is to permanently fix the problem. So as we've already mentioned, where do you start? You start with a problem. So, and it's an appropriately scoped problem. So for any of you that have taken any of my classes or watched any of my videos, you know I'm going to ask you these 2 questions. What problem are you trying to solve? And what data do you have to support the problem? So we need both of those questions answered before we can do an event. We need data, and we need the data so that we know as we make changes if we've made things better or worse. And the analogy that I give in my training classes is if we went to the doctor and the doctor said, your cholesterol is too high. Really? What's too high? I don't know what too high means. You have to explain that to me. So if your doctor says your cholesterol is 250 and in the range for a person of your age and your gender, you should be really around 200. You said, okay, so I have my baseline, 250. I have my goal, 200. And then I can check and see as I make changes to how I eat, my exercise, what I drink, how much water I drink, right? To know whether or not you've made things better or worse. But we're not going to be able to know that unless you have that measurable data to start with. I am a person that feels strongly about a project charter. So you should have a project charter for your Kaizen event. You should have a project charter for your projects that you work on at your company. This is the most basic project charter that I could find or create. It really is not meant to be overbearing, but it is meant to document what problem are you trying to solve, what data do you have, who are your stakeholders, and what do we expect out of this, and what's in scope and out of scope. And if you boil it down, this is really the basics that you need. If you don't have a copy of a project charter, you can go on my website for free, and I don't spam you. You can download a copy of a project charter under shop on my website. And this is something that I feel is very important because we need to be able to have that understanding and all of that information complete before we would go on to deciding that we're going to do a Kaizen event. Now, how do you fill this out? Well, one of the ways to fill it out is to create your measurable problem statement. And the measurable problem statement is something that I coach on also. And in your measurable problem statement, this contains all of the questions you need to answer to fill out that project charter. So we're asking what is happening. So tell me your story. Tell me what's happening. What's the target? And the target has to be measurable. It can't be, we need to be better. Okay, it can't be, we just need to have a system for this. I hear this all the time. We need to have some measurable targets, right? Going back to cholesterol, I'm at 250 and need to be at 200. 200 is my target. Tell me how bad this is. What is the impact to the company? And that means what bad things have already happened. And then we ask why the problem should be solved, looking forward and saying, if we don't do anything, what bad things are going to happen in the future? And the key point of this is the scope of the problem you're trying to solve. Now, I will say that most people start to understand, hey, we need to describe the problem and not the solution because we won't know the solution right now necessarily. We need data. You've heard me say that a million times, so that sunk in. But the big challenge with a Kaizen event is the scope. The scope of the Kaizen event is the really big challenge that we face because sometimes we have to look at a smaller subsection of a bigger problem to try to solve. So let me give you an example. So I had a client come to me and they said, I'm working on a project. They were going to a university, a state university for the Greenbelt, and we want to have a Kaizen event for this. And they presented it to me. And basically, it was they wanted to look at the process from the moment they received the customer order until the moment it shipped out the door. And I hope you realize as I'm saying that scope is way too big, right? That scope is enormous. That scope encompasses so many different value streams that it would be clearly impossible to try to get done in 3 to 5 days. And so my coaching session back to her was, we need to scale this back. So again, where is it hurting the most? And sometimes you'll hear me say, if it doesn't hurt the most, then you're not ready to solve the problem. So if this problem isn't hurting you or your business, and you're having problems trying to get people together, you're trying to figure out the scope and things like that, then your problem doesn't hurt enough. And I've had that with customers where they really are struggling, like, oh, we can't invite these people, or we can't bring these people, or no, we need to include this. We really need to sit down and try to boil it down to its minimum viable product. So in that case, for that example, we decided that it was the planning phase. So we looked at when the order got released to planning. So from that point to the release to their shop floor. So we took that large value stream and we boiled it down to this. And it was a very interesting event, that's for sure. And we were able to be very successful. So in general, I would say people are trying to take on more than they should during an event. And you really need to do a gut check to be able to say, is this too big? Right? Or can we scale this down and do multiple events? And I know sometimes if you tell your organization, we're going to do multiple events, they're like, oh my gosh, here we go. Right? And I understand it, but you're going to have a better outcome if you were to do 3 smaller events than try to do one giant event that goes over 2 weeks. So if you ever have questions in regards to scoping an event, please feel free to contact me. I don't charge for things like that. I don't charge for my opinion on that. And I'm always able to help and willing to help people to figure out the scope. And another way to look at scope is it's your line in the sand, right? So you're saying we will focus on this and we are not focusing on that. That is out of scope. And it's really hard to maintain a scope because sometimes we get distracted. Sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if we could do this too? It's like, yes, it would be. Write that down and we'll come back to that later. But for this event, we have to be able to focus on just this thing or this problem right here. And in general, if somebody's saying we need to look at from the moment we get the order to the moment we ship or deliver a service, that's probably too big. So, who should participate in an event? So, you have your project charter, you have your measurable problem statement, you have your goal, you have your scope defined. Now we have to figure out who's coming to this thing, who is going to be there. So, of course, you need an experienced facilitator. You want this to be a great event, a great experience for the people that are coming to the event. You want them to walk away feeling empowered and feeling like, yes, we can make changes within our organization. So if you don't have an experienced facilitator for a Kaizen, find one or contact me because we really want this to be a good experience for everyone involved. Now, the 2 next bullet points are really the most important besides facilitator. You need the process owner and the people that actually do the work. And that is the number one pushback that I get. You have to have the people that do the work. None of us want to come to work on Monday morning and have me greet you and say, good morning. Here is your new process for doing your job. Have a nice day, right? We don't want that. We don't want that at home either. I would be very upset if I came home and my husband's like, here's a new process for you to be able to do for your job. I would be like, what are you doing? Stay out of my lane. Stay in your own lane. So we need to make sure that the people that actually do the work are in the event, which means, yes, we are taking them away from their day job to do this. And is it possible? Yes, I have done thousands of events. No company has gone out of business because I took 2 of their folks off of their jobs for 3 days. If you're in a situation like that, you have a bigger problem. So we need internal or external customers, potentially. We could have subject matter experts. Those folks are invaluable, right, to be able to have. And cross-functional team members. Why do we want cross-functional team members? Because we want people in that room saying, why are we doing it like that? Because they have an outside perspective besides my own to be able to say, that's interesting. I'm not quite sure why we're doing that. Can you explain that? And sometimes people can't explain what's happening. As I've already mentioned, the most important people that should be invited to the Kaizen are the people that actually do the work and the people that own the process. Now, those could be one and the same. I always insist on making sure that it is the person that knows how to do the job. It's not the person that did that job 3 years ago. It's not only the supervisor or the manager. It's the people that are functionally doing the work. They're using the machine. They're using the system. They're packing the boxes, whatever it may be. It's the people that are in the trenches every single day doing that job because they know it best. So again, be prepared. There'll be pushback for taking people away from their day-to-day work to participate in an event. And I truly believe that if you plan well enough, that this is absolutely possible. Your company should not be out of business because you took somebody off of their job for 3 days, right? So we need, if you have that problem, then you have a bigger problem to solve than a Kaizen event. So we need to make sure that we plan in advance. So what does that mean? That means if you came to me today and said, I want a Kaizen event, I would probably be looking at December, January. Um, I have to figure out if you have some seasonality to your business. If you are really busy in the fall, I've just met with another customer the other day. They said, we're coming off our busy season. So, the fall and the winter are best for us. So we want to be able to look at that. We also want to be able to say, hey, we shouldn't do this toward the end of the month because it's crazy. Understood. So we plan in advance. So very rarely have I ever had a situation where somebody said, I need a Kaizen event in 2 weeks. I can't remember an instance like that in my career. So it's always planned in advance. And if we have enough planning, we should be able to offer some coverage for those folks that are leaving their day-to-day work to be able to do this. So what do we do in an event, right? What does this event look like? As I mentioned, we will review the project charter. So we'll review the problem statement, goal, and scope. Now, let me put this out there also. Before an event, so let's say we're doing an event on December 1st. I will have a pre-Kaizen event meeting on November 1st or thereabout to review what we're going to be talking about during the event. So we review the problem statement, goal, and scope. We review the attendees. We review everything that's on this list in a meeting prior to the Kaizen event. Because when we come into Kaizen, that is not the time for people to say, you know what, I don't agree with that scope. I thought about that and that doesn't work for me. No, we all need to be on the same page the first day that we start the event. So we need to get any of those discussions out of the way prior to the first day of the event. So I generally, 2 weeks to a month ahead of the actual event, I will have a pre-Kaizen event meeting and review everything that's on the screen. Also, during the event, I provide training for all of the items you see on the screen. So I don't expect anyone to come into the event being a green belt or being a yellow belt or have heard the word lean. That's completely okay if you have never heard that word before or aren't familiar with the concepts, because we'll teach them along the way. So again, we review our project charter and we'll go through the Kaizen rules, which I'll show you here in a second. We'll do a SIPOC, which is a 50,000-foot view of a process that stands for suppliers, inputs, processes, outputs, and customers. And then we get to the exciting part and we do a current state value stream map. And I'm going to talk about the tools that I use along the way here too. Then we'll do a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We'll do an ideal state brainstorming session. We'll do a future state value stream map and action items. We'll do a report out. I'll show you the agenda for that. And then we schedule follow-up sessions. So this is the event agenda that I follow every single time. Let me also set some expectations for an event. In an event, depending on the scope, for the most part, I don't expect all of the action items to be able to be completed during the time that we are together, because it could involve doing research, or we might have to go to IT, or we might have to get an outside supplier, and we can't always do that in a very compressed time frame. So when the outcome of the Kaizen event is a list of action items that people have to complete in order for you to realize that future state value stream map. So that's the expectation, is that we are doing action items outside of the event. Only once in my career have I had the blessing and the opportunity to do an IT event where I had programmers with me during the event. So as we were designing the future state, they were able to start coding, and they had 90% of the coding done by the end of the event. and then they just had to do some cleanup afterwards. But really, the expectation is we're going to walk away with action items we have to complete to realize our future state and new process. Now, here are the Kaizen rules of the road. So we need you here mentally and physically. That means you are there from the start of the Kaizen event, the kickoff, all the way through the end. You don't come and go. You can't come in just for value stream mapping. You can't pop in for this section or pop in for that section. You have to be there, your butt in seat, the entire time we are scheduled for the event. You can't leave to go to a meeting. Now, why am I so angry about that? Teams go through stages of team dynamics: forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning, and then celebrate. And the problem is that when you have a group of people come together, we go through forming, storming, norming, and we get to performing. Now, for some groups, it takes 20 minutes. Other groups, it may take 2 hours to get there, and that's okay. Now, the challenge becomes is when somebody leaves the room. Somebody leaves the room, and believe it or not, that group that just got to performing slides back down the scale. They might go to storming, they might go to norming, but they're not performing anymore. So it's not for when somebody leaves to go to the restroom and comes back. It's when somebody leaves and goes to a meeting, or I'm sorry, I can only be here half a day, or they only show up for a portion of it. They slide back down that scale. So you are not working in an optimal environment when you have people coming and going. So we need to keep that team in the performing stage of team dynamics. And the only way to be able to do that is to consistently keep the same people in the room. We want to respect each other, of course, and teamwork is key. No ideas are bad ideas. There's no dumb ideas. Remember, we focus on the process that's broken, not the person. We're not blaming people. We want to pay attention to the person speaking. So watch for side conversations, avoid analysis paralysis, and don't sit and spin. And it's my job to enforce the rules. It's my job to help you if you have analysis paralysis. It's my job to help you if we see people sitting and spinning. And to be honest with you, sometimes I have help in the room where people are like, we're sitting and spinning, we need to move on. Great. And it all works well if we go and follow those rules. So how long does this thing take? So it depends on the problem and the scope of the problem that you're trying to solve. An average, quote unquote, average Kaizen event is 3 days. A range is typically 2 to 5 days. In general, I don't like to scope it more than 5 days in a row. So 5 days is a quite long event for a very large scope. But the average event is 3 days. And typically it is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because people don't want to start on Monday and they don't want to end on Friday. And that also allows for any type of travel that people have to do. These should be sequential days. So I have to say that. These should be sequential days. Once you get into Kaizen, you are in this mode. Your brain is operating different. You're looking at things intently. You're looking at things at a different level than you've ever looked at before. And we need to be able to keep that mental state for 3 days. If you don't do it in sequential days, it's really hard to get the team to switch back and forth between work mode and Kaizen mode. And then preference, this is my personal preference. Unless you have some really stellar technology, I prefer that everybody is in the room or everybody online. Now, I will put the caveat out there that I do not like to do Kaizen events where everyone is remote. It is very difficult to facilitate. And hybrid is a challenge because we don't have the technology that's going to allow me to be able to have that person that's remote see the people in the room and see what we're writing on the walls. So if we got better technology for that, that would be great. But I will tell you, the majority of the places that I go to, we barely have the technology to be able to do a Zoom call, let alone to be able to have a camera that could see what we wrote on the wall. So my personal preference is everyone is in the room. So let's look at Kaizen event tools. So first I want to talk to you about Wizard Wall. So Wizard Wall is, I have 7 rolls of Wizard Wall in the back of my truck. If you don't know what Wizard Wall is, this is what it is. It is whiteboard paper on a roll. And I just found out, I am proud to say this final product comes out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So it is static cling, so it's charged with static electricity, which means it sticks to anything. So I have no idea what I'm coming into when I go to an event. And sometimes people want to take the value stream map and take it with them afterwards. Well, we can't do that if it's on a regular old whiteboard. So we use Wizard Wall. Wizard Wall sticks to anything with static cling. I will say it does not like to stick to walls that are carpeted. So sometimes people have those dividing walls in conference rooms and they're carpeted. A Wizard Wall really doesn't like to stick to that. But it sticks to any other type of wall without tape. So you don't have to worry about tape. Uh, Post-it notes stick to it just fine. You write on it with dry erase markers and you can just erase with your fingers or with a Kleenex. So this is a game changer. If you don't know, some organizations use butcher paper. Butcher paper is fine, but for those folks in the room that get upset when an error is made on a map, you can't erase it on butcher paper. It's there, but we can erase it. We can easily move Post-it notes around on this. If I am traveling and I don't have my vehicle with me, I unroll this honestly in the hallway of my house and I fold it up and put it in my suitcase. So this I buy, there is 40 feet of it on a roll. One roll will last me probably at least 2 to 3 Kaizen events. So this is my absolute favorite tool. So it's called Wizard Wall and you can get it on wizardwall.com. My other tool that I use is Miro. So if we do have to do something virtually, or another question I get is, what do I do with the pictures that I take of this stuff? I took a picture of the value stream map. I took a picture of the SWOT. What do I do with that? Well, you can open a Miro board, which is an electronic whiteboard, and store the pictures in there if you want. Sometimes we have to recreate the value stream map digitally, and you can do that in Miro instead of using something like Visio. Miro is very economically priced for $20 a month. Of course, I need my big Post-it sheets. So we have the big Post-it sheets here. Those are the easel size sheets. I use those. Anybody that's been to my class knows I bring Mr. Sketch markers just because they're fun, right? Everybody loves them. They smell nice. We need dry erase markers, so we can use that on our Wizard Wall. And of course, we need Post-its. So Post-its, or if you want to buy the Amazon brand, and that Post-it note up there, which I have also right here, these are Post-it notes that I have made for Kaizen events. So when we're doing a current state value stream map, we complete one of these Post-it notes per step in the process. If there is waste in a process, then what I will do is I will take a different colored Post-it note and put it behind this one so that I can see on the value stream map that that step has evidence of waste. So it's a sea of colors all the time, whatever colors we pick for the day. But every Post-it note in the current state map is done on one of these pre-printed Post-it notes that I have on my website. This is just personal preference. This works well for me because it shows the process, the owner, the customer, how much time it takes. Then we can start tracking value. So whether it's value add, business non-value add, or non-value add, and whether or not there's waste. And of course, if you've been to any of my classes, you know that an average process contains 95% waste. And this visual really helps to bring that out because when we see a sea of these yellow Post-it notes with pink ones underneath, we can look at it and go, wow, look at all the waste that we have. How can we eliminate that waste and add value for our customers? So don't worry about writing all this down. I have an Amazon list that you can look at so that you can buy any of these things that you may need. Odds are you probably have some of them anyways. Okay, so we've done the Kaizen event. Uh, the team has worked hard. We created our measurable problem statement and goal. We filled out our project charter. We figured out who to invite. We are having the event. We do our current state value stream map and our SWOT. We brainstorm on the future state. So I like an affinity diagram. Imagine that with post-it notes to brainstorm on how we're going to fix the problem, and we create our future state map. And the future state is really what we want this process to look like in the future, focusing on our goal, right? And then we have action items associated with those future state value stream map. And then we do a report out. And in the report out, this is where we invite leaders of the organization or managers in the organization to come and allow the team to show off and celebrate what they did in the event. And I can't tell you how important it is to make sure that those leaders show up to the event. It really, we talk about culture and lean all the time. If you really are trying to grow your culture to one that embraces lean and Six Sigma concepts, you need to show up for the report out. And I will tell you that when they show up to the report out, they're completely amazed. They can't believe how much work the team has done. And the team facilitates the report out, not me as a facilitator. So we'll do introductions. I have the problem statement and goal written out on one of those large post-it notes on the easel size, so they read that. Somebody reviews the SIPOC, then somebody else reviews the current state value stream map, noting the waste, noting the value, sometimes noting the time if that's appropriate. Somebody reviews the SWOT and the ideal state brainstorming activity. Then somebody else reviews the future state map. So they'll review how we want this process to look like in the future and the action items that we have to complete in order to realize that future state. And then we review what we need from you, the guests that came in for the report out, to be successful. 99% of the time, that list says we need your support. And people aren't asking for a lot. They're not asking for money. They're not asking for capital. They're not asking for more people. All they're asking for is the support to be able to make this happen. And then we do a final reflection called Hanse, where we reflect in the room what we've learned and what was their biggest takeaway from the event. So it is exciting to be able to showcase all of the hard work that everyone has done during the event. And again, the key to being able to be successful with this is making sure you have that strong problem statement and goal. You've identified the right people, and you have figured out and followed a agenda like this. Also, let's talk about where you should hold it. And I haven't mentioned that yet. If you have, number one, don't have a room or an area within your facility that's big enough to hold all the people and to put stuff on walls like Wizard Wall and your easel paper, etc., then you may need to go and rent a room somewhere. So I was just doing training last week for an organization in Ohio. They did not have a room that was big enough to be able to manage all the people. So we just went to a local hotel and we were in a conference room at a local hotel, which works just fine. But just make sure also that you have to ask yourself another question. Can we hold a Kaizen event at our facility and really have everybody stay in the room and not get distracted by people knocking on the door or their email or their phone going off, etc.? If your team can't stay away from the day-to-day and concentrate on the event, then you might have to go outside of your facility to do it. You just need to be honest with yourself, and you have to be able to understand what the culture is. So that's something to consider also. Something also to consider, as I mentioned, in the majority of the cases, the action items are something that the team has to do after the actual event has concluded. The team is going to need time to complete their action items. My suggestion is that somebody should be assigned as the quote unquote project manager to keep track and follow up on action items. And we would meet, or I suggest that you meet in 30, 60, and 90 days after the event has completed to review the action items and update the future value stream map if needed. So what does that mean? That may mean that one of your action items is to look at getting new multifunction devices, so copy machines, right, or printers for all of your sites. That was a action item from your future state map. And you do the investigation in 30 days, you come back and you said, the company is just not willing to invest in that right now. Okay, that's fine. Do we need to update our future state value stream map to change any of that process that we wanted to have because we can't fulfill that action item? I will tell you that for all of the Kaizen events that I have ever done, I have never had an action item that was not able to be completed, and I've never had to change a future state. So they've always been able to be completed. We've always been able to realize the future state. So these are powerful tools. This is a powerful event. And it also needs to be strategically done, right? So the project that you're picking should align with the strategy for your company. The project that you're picking should be something that you're able to complete in 3 to 5 days, typically. Again, it's all these strategic conversations and discussions and figuring out what is going to move the needle the most for your organization. And what you really want is people going, what are they doing over there? Oh my gosh, we've had that problem forever and we're able to fix it now. How did that happen? And that helps to grow and engage your culture for one that is focused on lean and continuous improvement because they get excited about these things and new ideas will come along. Remember also, this is from my data from over 20 years, your return on investment for a Kaizen event is at least 3 to 10 times the actual cost of the event and is realized within 3 to 6 months of the completion of the event. So Kaizen events have huge ROI that is paid very quickly, is what that really says. Every event has that type of return on investment. They are just fantastic. It feels like magic sometimes, but they are fantastic events that can really, again, help an organization to move past a problem that they've had for a long time. Or it could be maybe that there's a new government regulation. We know that on the call today, we have some people that are dealing with any of the FDA requirements, right? Maybe, and I'm not jinxing you, maybe somebody, they've come up with a new FDA requirement. Maybe you need a Kaizen event for that to figure out how you're going to be able to meet that requirement. Or you do defense work and there's a change to the defense work information. Maybe we have an event for that. So again, it's not always we have this problem, fix it, broken, fix it situation. It could be we also have an opportunity where we have new requirements and how are we going to make those work for us? I just want to remind you that Kaizen events are not about boiling the ocean or solving world hunger. That's not what this is about. And sometimes people get very overwhelmed with this. It is just about figuring out how we can get 1% better. That's really what we're trying to figure out is how can we get 1% better? If we get 1% better every day, think about the impact that would be to your organization. So again, try not to be overwhelmed with this. We want to make sure that people understand that Kaizen can drive revolutionary change within an organization. But it takes time, it takes organization, and it takes practice to do them really well. This is my Kaizen event must-haves. So the Kaizen event must-haves on the left side here, if you're like, I don't remember what she just said for what we need to get, that's a link to an Amazon list. So you can get the basics from Amazon, your Post-its, your markers, etc. If you are interested in those pre-printed Post-it notes that I do, you can scan that QR code there. Or if you want to pick up some Wizard Wall, You can order it on wizardwall.com. That's just a link to their website there. So I'll leave that up here for a second. But I've been doing these for a very long time. I have my what we call the Kaizen Go bag, where I have everything in a tote, basically, that's in the back of my truck that I take with me for Kaizen events. In my cart, most of you have seen, and I stick a roll of this in there and some of the post-it note easel pads. And it makes it easy so that every time we do an event, we just grab the go bag. I did that when I worked in corporate America too. We had somebody got it embroidered and it said Kaizen Go Bag, and everybody knew where it was. So if we were running a Kaizen event, they just went and grabbed the bag, and we had everything that we needed in it. So these tools have been tried over and over and over again, and they work really, really well. Now, if you were interested in learning more about Kaizen events, I wrote a book on it. It's called How to Improve Absolutely Every Process. And it goes into much more detail in regards to Kaizen events than we did today. Now, the one thing I do want to talk to you about is how do you make these things stick, right? So, how do we make this stick? You make it stick, number one, by appropriately scoping and having that measurable problem statement, but also treating the action items like a project and making sure that we are allowing people time to work on those and having those check-in points at day 30, 60, and 90 to hold people accountable. If anyone's ever come to one of my 30, 60, 90-day meetings, no update is not an update. That is not permitted. You're either walking in with an update or you're walking in with an ask saying, I need help with something. And it's through that discipline and through that repeatable process with predictable results that we get Kaizen events that stick. If you've never done one before and you need help again with figuring out how to scope this or where to even start, right? Start small is my greatest advice to you. Start small, even if it feels like, oh my gosh, this is too small. It's probably going to be bigger than you think. And those value stream maps tell quite the story, that's for sure. And it's so exciting, though, to really be able to see how things have changed for an organization for the positive as a result of the event. How many should you do? Depends on the problem that you're trying to solve. It also depends on the culture in your organization. How much change can your organization take in a short period of time? Uh, Average customer probably does 1 to 2 events a year. But if you are in a place where you need to do more events because you need to drive more change, there's nothing wrong with that. Just be aware of the processes that you're changing and the implications to other areas within the business. As a reminder of our services from Learning to Lean, we do leadership lean assessment, we do lean champion training and coaching and site assessments. I'll be doing a site assessment next week for a company in Green Bay. We do Lean Six Sigma training, white, yellow, green, and black. If you are interested, we have a virtual yellow belt 1-day training coming up in September. We have green belt training coming up in or at NWTC in September. It's 2 days, 1 week, 2 days the next week, and 1 day the following week. And we also have our new Lean conference on September 30th. And the focus this year is on lean leadership. And if you never got to play with Wizard Wall, I'll have some there for you to be able to play with. And we're going to do a fun event with that. We also do project management, consulting, and training. So thank you for coming today. I greatly appreciate it. I'll open it up for any questions that you may have.
No questions here from me or my team, but it definitely brought up, when you were talking the storming and the norming, and kind of learning from ourselves. So I know I see Dave on there. So we held a Kaizen event in Virginia a few months ago, and we definitely experienced the
Live.
but yeah, the collaboration efforts and then, kind of working together around that. So it was, learning from opportunities. And one of them says this, I told them, I was like, guys, this is always going to happen. So, going to focus back on what you said is making sure you have a strong facilitator and champion to run these events is really definitely key. So yeah, anyways, just feedback that led into some good discussions. So.
Awesome. Great. Thanks.